welcome you back from the break. And before I went on recession, we talked about the lower non-physical perceptions, which are the psychic abilities. And we concluded on the psychokinesis that has to do with using the man's ability to influence objects without necessarily having a physical interference with that object. So that brings us to the end of the lower non-physical perceptions, which is known as the psychic abilities. So I explained to you that these lower non-physical perceptions are also abilities that one uses. Unfortunately, many people are stuck here and they think that is ultimate spirituality. And what happens is this: when people are practicing these abilities, they are trapped within the realm of ego, what we call the realm of ego. And in the realm of ego, it's very difficult for the person to progress to the higher level, in that the person thinks he's powerful. But true spirituality has nothing to do with magical tendencies. Over here, people display magical and mystical tendencies. And magical and mystical tendencies are so eluding and illusionary to the extent that it is very difficult for the people to give up those magical and mystical tendencies for a higher spiritual practice. So most people then are stuck here and they are enslaved at this dimension. That is why some of us, by the grace of the intelligence, when we go to certain level of this practice, we have the opportunity to be exposed or to get connected to higher teaching. So we left off from here and then we continue on to the self-realization. But actually, all these things are not self-realization. They are lower natural abilities within your personality, but it is not connected to the self. So there are a lot of people who can do these things, yet does not know who they are. Because the self itself is beyond these lower personalities. So this is what it has to be. So you should know that when I just want you to understand that when people are performing these things, you see, it is good to know them, very good to know them. And this I'm giving you general introduction and general fundamentals to these abilities. If you want to know them, you want to study them, it is good. You can use them for your everyday life, in your everyday business and all those things. Even with this one, there are other ones which is much more higher than this. Okay, but we are not treating that one yet. Before you come to the real deal, which is the self-realization. So you can use them. There's nothing wrong with it. These are your own gifted abilities. It is in everybody. Once you have a good trainer, gives you the keys and gives you the tactics, you can practice it. And as you practice for a period of time, you begin to master the act. They are called higher sense perceptions, because that's a sense perception, but that one is a little bit higher than the physical sense perceptions. Some people call it extrasensory perceptions, which is they call it the ESP, or the higher sense perception, which is the HSP. All these things are psychic abilities, which is far more greater and higher than the physical abilities that we have. So now we will move from the lower non-physical abilities to the higher non-physical abilities. So now we are on the higher non-physical abilities. Now, with the higher non-physical abilities, this is where you're going to use perceptions, higher perceptions, and in this perception, it does not connect you to the lower region or the lower self, but it rather connects you to the higher region or to the higher dimension, where you use this ability or this perception to perceive data and information from the higher dimension and bring it down to the lower dimension. And that is what we are going to deal with, the higher non-physical perceptions. Now, when you come to the higher non-physical perception, I group them into two categories. We have what you call instinct. Everybody has an instinct. Now, instinct is a higher perception, but it has its own effect. And then we have the two we call intuition. And we have intuition. Okay, these two sometimes look the same, but there's a difference. And that's what we're going to look at. But we are going to focus more attention on the intuition, because that is what all today's lectures is about. It's about intuition and how to develop the intuition, and how you can use the intuition and connect with the intuition to higher dimension, to the higher self, and then receive information. Now, instincts. What is instincts? Instincts is in my own definition, I define instinct to be a forceful directive that comes from the higher dimension to your being in order to salvage you from a disaster, or in order to inform you to assess a fortune due to your inactiveness towards the frequency. That is an instinct. So, for instance, maybe you'll be sitting down like this. Then all of a sudden, somebody tell you, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. As soon as you wake up, something falls on a chair. That thing that tells you to wake up is called an instinct. That's what we call instincts. It is now, it happens so because you lack intuitive connection. With instincts, you can't ask questions, you can't dialogue with instincts. Just the information comes with force. Now that your higher self, which is also responsible for your protection, when it sees that something is coming to your way which is detrimental, and at the same time you don't have that connection to have that liberal communication with that higher self, the higher self will force the information to penetrate through all the dimensions for you to receive it. And that is what we call instincts. And that instinct is the animal tendency. We call it the animal tendency. So most animals live on instincts. It's like a program. It looks like a configuration. That is a one-way communication. The information just comes, like this, and you receive it, and then it's off for a better reason or for a better purpose. That is what we call instincts. So I've come across people, a lot of posters and a lot of church programs that have the caption "Living by Your Instincts." So then I once saw a program, I think organized by one of these, is it TD Jakes or something, and it's about living by your instincts or something like that. I thought that when somebody tells you to live by your instincts, the person is telling you to live by your animal tendencies, and that has nothing to do with it. It gives you lack the ability to develop spiritually because it is forced on you. But actually, we must live by our intuition, because intuition is at the fifth dimension. So when you talk about intuition, we are talking about the fifth dimension, which is the beginning of spirituality. All other things we talk about, psychic abilities, telekinesis, precognition, recognition, postcognition, psychokinetics, all those abilities we are talking about, it is below the instincts. There are psychic abilities, very good abilities. I'm not going to say that. There are very good abilities we need. We all use them occasionally when it is necessary, but they are still below the instincts. So they are below the intuition. So now you know what instincts is. I'm not going to waste my time to go into instincts because it's not something you really need. It only happens because of your inability to have a clear frequency connection to receive direct information as and when you so please from the higher source. And that is why instincts comes into play. And as I told you, instincts is an animal tendency. So animals are governed by instincts. And human beings who have not begun their spiritual journey and have not come to that self-realization lives at the level of the instincts. Yes. Sometimes you may not even develop your psychic ability, but at a certain time your instinct saves you from situation because of the self that needs to guide the lower self. So the lower self can use instincts to direct and to protect the lower self from imminent danger or risk or destruction or something like that. So that is the instincts. Now, the main issue for the day is what we call the intuition. This is the telecommunication to spirituality, true spirituality, holistic spirituality. In the physical dimension, clothed in this physical body, suppressed by the intellect. The only thing that we have as a spiritual telephone connection is our intuition. And that is what we use to communicate to the spiritual realm. And let me take my seat. Intuition, as we know it, is a system of non-physical communication. Okay, for instance, when I have developed my intuition, I'll be able to connect to higher intelligences. Now, what happens is that with instincts, the whole thing comes at once. The information comes at once. But with intuition, you have a dialogue, and intuition does not depend on external information or data. And intuition is beyond conscious reasoning. When you develop your intuition, it goes beyond your consciousness. Well, it must not have any conscious reasoning to prove why the information is coming. That is how intuition works. So when you have your connection to your higher self, the only link between the lower self and the higher self is what you call the intuition. And when you are able to establish this intuition, you constantly have dialogue with the higher self. So for instance, as I said before, when the instance comes, you can't ask questions. Get up, or leave there, or no, stay home, don't go. Why you shouldn't go, you can't ask. Because you have not developed that ability to dialogue with that intelligence. But when your intuition is developed, or when your intuition is connected, you can ask questions. Why do I have to live there? Even when the intuition is developed, they don't even make it instructive. It's more or less like a dialogue. You say, oh, get up from where you are sitting, because in no time this and this and this will happen. Then you can dialogue back. Why this? Why that? That is what I call directions in real time. Because as you are on the go, you can have engagement through your intuition. Asking questions. You can just walk by and see something happen and say, oh, why is this happening? And they will tell you that, oh, this and this and this is the reason why this is happening. And you can ask back, okay, if this is why this is happening, why not this, but rather this? That is how the intuition works. I'll give a classical scenario. Just about last week, I lost a friend. My uncle is like a distance, family distance. And I talked to him on Tuesday, supposed to have a meeting with him on Wednesday. And I couldn't go because I was in the office. Thursday, I couldn't go because I went to site. So I decided that Friday morning I'll call him because he was supposed to give me some herbs for a particular service. So I was calling him to find out that, oh, I need those things. I said he should prepare for me. So I called Friday morning. I spoke with him on Tuesday or Wednesday. I called Friday morning and I asked. When I called, a lady picked up the phone and I asked, if I want to say, what for you? I said, why? What do you mean? What is the issue? Because nobody picks his call ideally. Then finally the lady told me he passed away. I was like, how come? And everybody was like, nobody knows what happened. So throughout the whole day I was confused. So I engaged my intuition, meditating and concentrating on what could probably be the cost of such a sudden demise. So I went to town. On my way back, I got to a point. Instantly my intuition told me that this is the cause of death. Is death. I wouldn't go into that one. But apparently he had told me something that has happened about 3 weeks to 4 weeks before his demise. And there was a confusion between him and the doctor and all those things. And also when he told me that, I was unhappy with his approach and the way he went about the whole situation. So as soon as I got there, they told me that this is the place that is. Meanwhile, I wasn't there where the thing happened. He narrated to me that something happened today like that. But as soon as I got to the spot, they told me that this is where the thing happened and this is the cause of the death. but the person he slapped didn't forgive. You see, that is how intuition works. So with a developed intuition, you can engage and make inquiries about issues, situations, and conditions, and you get results. And this is where I am talking about, and I'm referring to Matthew chapter 7, verse 7. Say, ask and you shall receive. So it is one thing having the ability to ask, which all of us have the ability to ask. God, I want this. God, why is this happening? And it's one thing having the ability to receive the information when God is talking back to you. The literal God, the source of intelligence from which you want to receive the information or decode the meaning to the situation. You see, so once you're able to develop your intuition, and later on we'll look at the basic requirements for being able to develop your intuition. Once you're able to develop your intuition, what happens is that you can always engage and find out, what is happening to this, what is happening to this. And it happens. I am not talking about book knowledge, I'm talking about practical life, what we have been using in our everyday life. This is not book knowledge, this is not what Bible said, or what this, or this is not what somebody. I am talking to you about what we use in our everyday life. Not me alone, but there are a lot of people that I know who have gone through my training and who have not gone through my training, but have gone through the same training from different teachers and different masters. And it is applicable. Anybody can use it. And this is the only way we can navigate our way through this world of confusion and trickery. Because somebody comes to you and is talking business with you, you should be able to know that whether the person is a crook or the person is speaking the truth. Just last week, somebody wanted to come and take some money from me. Yes, it's your money. We are buying something from you, and you needed some money to do something. But they gave me a whole bunch of stories just to get a portion of the money. And when he came, I was just sitting down with my wife, and he was talking plenty, but they were telling me, he's lying, but this and this and this is why he needs the money, and he's going to use the money to do this, and not because of that. But I didn't bother. I gave the money to him. When I got home in the evening, I was taking my shower. They kept on explaining the situation to me. So I heard it. I understand. You get it. So when I came back, I told my wife that, look, the guy who came, it's not because of that. He needed the money for his business. But he found it difficult to tell me because he felt big or something like that. Because it's to go money or something like that. So he used that as an excuse to come from. But it's your own money. You understand? So there was no need. But this is how intuition works. Because intuition is like a web connection. You understand? That deals with different frequencies. Because intuition doesn't deal with vibration, doesn't deal with energy, it deals with frequency. And frequency operates at a higher dimension. You get it? Whilst energy operates at a lower dimension, whilst vibration operates between frequency and then energy. That's why I always say that if you want to understand this life and understand yourself and life properly, you must look at things from the perspective of energy, vibration, and frequency. That is how you can understand life properly. So with frequency, you deal with informations from the frequency level. With intuition, you deal with information from the frequency level, and which is devoid of material or physical data. You don't depend on anything physical to take that to deal with your intuition. But intuition deals with the non-physical data, the non-physical information. And that non-physical information is information without effect. You can trust your intuition because it never fails. And most of the time, when the intuition comes, it appears like, why? Why does it make sense? To the intellect, it doesn't make sense. I'll give another classical scenario because I like talking about what I have gone through, you understand, which has become a personal truth, which is derived from the impersonal truth. Now, there was a situation where I was going to town, and then as I finished my breakfast and everything, I was even working on the laptop. Then I had a call. My uncle called me to come. He's an electrical engineer. We're doing a project for Ghana Airport Company, installing air conditioning there. I think the southern finger of Ghana Airport Company. So he called me to come. So quickly I wrapped up what I was doing on the laptop, and then I went to the car. As soon as I put the car keys into to open the door, my intuition told me, do not use the car. Then I asked, well, why shouldn't I use the car? They told that, and they didn't tell me the reason. They told me that you will know why you shouldn't use the car. Just leave the car and go buy public transport. So then I went back and I put the kid down. I told my dad, I want to go there. I said, why? Your uncle is coming, you have to rest and go. You're leaving. I said, no, I don't want to use the car. So I took public transport, got to that one. Do you know by the time I got to office, I went black. Everything, I couldn't see anything. It started by feeling like I wanted to vomit. I'm feeling kind of chills on my body and all those. So all of a sudden I realized that I was going on. So assuming if I was driving by then, but I didn't get to the office when it started, so definitely I would have been driving by then. So the taxi driver fortunately knew me. Now when the thing started, I told her he should take me to my mom's place. And I mentioned my mom's place. Luckily, the taxi driver knew my mom. So all that I could hear ping, 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 mama cry, ping, 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 give way, ping, ping, give way. I couldn't see nothing, I couldn't hear anything. And then they took me to my mom's place. And then they took me to the hospital. And then they put drips on me. At the end of the day, yes, I knew I was doing some practice. I was staying off sugar for some practice at the time. So my sugar went very low. You understand? Very, very low. And I think he told me that. So when I got, they said there's nothing wrong with me, just that my sugar was low. I said, yes, I was doing some practice. I've been offsetting certain lifestyle. I've been offsetting lifestyle for a while. So eventually they gave me a drink and then they asked me to drink, I think Coke or something. They gave me Coke, something very sweet and all those things. And then I came back to normal. But that time I think I was in a fasting and I was doing a particular spiritual exercise. You see? So that is how it is. If I had not listened to my intuition, and when I inquired, they told me that I would know the reason why they told me not to leave the car, so just leave the car. And I disregarded it. Maybe I have a much more fatal situation. You understand? So our intuition is our best friend, our best guide. And we are supposed to guide and control and direct our mind with our intuition. So we pick the information and we tell the mind what to do. So the mind wanted to use the car, but I picked the information from my intuition and I told the mind that we are not using the car. All things being equal, I would have loved to drive. You see, so that is how intuition works. It's the most reliable source that you can deal with yourself, that you will never be deceived. Now, even when somebody is deceiving you, if you have developed your intuition, you will know. For me, when you're lying to me, I can choose not to mind you. That doesn't mean I don't know that you are lying. That is me. There are times somebody will be saying something and I know how it will end. But I'll just watch you quietly. So this is something everybody can practice it. It is the issue of having the connection. Going through the lifestyle adjustments which is required to be able to have that energy activated and then have a connection. And that's it. And once you have that connection, that is when you begin to have inner teachings. The self will begin to teach you about life. And that is how it is like. And the intuition works whether you are awake or you are asleep. The intuition is always working 24/7. And that's why I said the intuition, when we go to the structure of spiritual development, the intuition is at the fifth dimension. So we need to connect our intuition. The only reliable cable or connectivity that can guide us through the material life. It gives us the opportunity and advantage of survival. Because when something is coming your way, which is risky, the intuition tells you, just like I'm talking about the going black on the way. It's a danger that was coming my way, but my intuition guided me through it. I'll give you another classical scenario. I'm purchasing something for a very a friend of mine who is very dear to my heart. And in the process, everything was okay. I checked all documentations, everything was fine. Then my intuition told me that yes, everything is okay. Spiritually, the way is clear. But there's something that you need to clarify. So I told my other friend that we were engaging in that process with that, everything is fine, but there's 10% of something I need to clarify. When that 10% that is clear, I will effect the payment. Initially, the understanding wasn't there and all those things. Then as we pursued, I held back the payment and we pursued a little bit more and realized that there's some small knot that has to be untied in order for the whole transaction to be holistically and properly done. If I had not followed my intuition, the story would have been different. But when the direction came through my intuition, I followed it. In the transaction, a lot of things have come up, and it's for the collective good, for a better transaction. So this is how our intuition guides us in the times of danger and risk. You don't fall victim to circumstances when your intuition is active. There are times my intuition have directed me and I have discomplied or have disregarded the directions of my intuitions or the teachings of my intuitions. And most times it ended me in trouble. Many times, not once, not twice, many times. So that is how it works. So anytime you're able to advance and develop your intuition and have the connection, when it begins to give you direction and you refuse to comply, most of the time, it ends you up in trouble. Or something something which is unpleasant happens. Because your intuition is your best guide. Because the intuition picks the signal from the higher self. And the only thing I've told you before, that it will never ever deceive you. All other things can deceive you, but yourself can never deceive you. And this is where you need to have a connection. And when you're able to connect to yourself through the intuition, you always have peace of mind. Knowing that you have a reliable source of information. Me, when you come and talk, all I need to do is to, when everything is done with, in the cool of the day, I just have to sit down quietly and begin to meditate on what you have told me. Then instantly, you will engage my intuition. What he said is not correct. It is this and this and that's the reason. Oh, the money, this is the reason why. He couldn't tell you, but this is the reason why. This is something I do every day of my life. And I know people who do it every day of their lives. And it is something you can also do it for yourself. You don't need me. You don't need that man. You don't need that woman. Because the truth of the matter is that you are in this world because of you. And you are the only you that's supposed to fulfill the purpose and the reason why you are on earth. Nobody will do that for you. Others may guide you, others may help you, like what we are doing. But the truth of the matter is all that we are doing is about you. And the final decision lies with you. So the earlier you begin to learn how to connect to the you, which is inside, the better it is for you. Because everything at the end of the day would end with you. As I've always said, life matter, and all things in life, in existence, matter because it is you that you are alive. When you are no more, all things does not matter to you. Life is relevant because you are alive. The day that you exit this physical container we call body, nothing really matters to you. So the earlier you learn how to connect to the you, the better it is for you. And it is only the you that I can help you to navigate in this life and to escape the risks the trickery and the deceptions in this world. But the truth of the matter is that our world is full of deception. Our world is full of trickery. And you need to understand that to be able to understand things properly without adulterations, without deception, and without illusion, you must learn to connect to the you within you, which is the real you. And to connect to the real you, it is done through your intuition. So you now know what your intuition is. Your intuition is the cable and the connection to your higher self, so as you can maintain a constant dialogue and a constant relationship with yourself in order to have adequate information and relevant information for your everyday successful life. You need your intuition. You need to learn and be able to connect to your intuition. This is what you really need. When you are able to connect to your intuition, all the confusions of life, you would overcome them. You would be able to escape all the deceptions that our world is trapped in. This is what you truly need. So the question is, what are the benefits that your intuition will serve you, or the purpose that your intuition will serve when you're able to develop your intuition? I have listed a few of them, but they are much more than that. But the most profound ones are the ones I have mentioned. But what I'm going to tell you does not limit the ability of your intuition, because the point is that your intuition can save you from everything that would ever happen to you. Your intuition can give you you see, the intelligences from which you emanated, you incarnated from, is very much important. It is very much interested in every second and in every aspect of your life. From what you eat, to where you sit, to what conversation you have, to where you sleep, to every aspect. There's nothing irrelevant or unnecessary to that intelligence. Because the point is that your entire life on earth is based on experiences. So everything that you are going through is coordinating to your experience, and that is why the intelligences are very interested in everything you go through. And you need guidance from your higher self in order to go through the appropriate experiences. And to receive that guidance, the only telephone line, the only invisible telephone line to receive that calls of inner guidance from your higher self is through the telephone network we call intuition. If you want to call me, you have to call me through MTN or Vodafone. You need a communication network to call me within a physical space. If you are not going to use telecommunication network and then you are going to call me physically, maybe you are present, you are close, you want to call me, you need another form of communication to call me, so you call me by my name. There has to be a medium of communication. And I'm telling you that between the non-physical and the self which is within you, the only conduit or the only means of communication, it is through intuition. Out of intuition, you can do so many things. Now, Your intuition, when it's activated, grants you the opportunity of creativity. Your intuition gives you the ability to create things. Because one of the attributes and qualities that we human has is the quality of creativity. Now, there are a lot of people who are not creative in life. Those who are not creative in life, they are not creative simply because they have lost their intuitive connection. So, when you do something, you have to go and see a consultant. Even when you take decision for his personal life, you have to go to a friend. They've lost their sense of creativity. And that sense of creativity comes from your intuitive connection to your higher intelligence, which is within yourself. But he knows what is best suitable for you. Yourself knows what is best suitable for you. No other person knows. Now, another quality that we get, another benefit we get by connecting to our intuition is you have the benefit of inspiration, where we can tap into higher, profound intelligences and knowledge that gives us some level of inner energy to be able to do and achieve whatever we want to achieve in life. And that kind of inspiration that comes from the higher self is not deficient. If you don't connect to your intuition to have inspiration from your higher intelligences, you have to depend on motivational speakers to motivate you. And the reason why a lot of people go to motivational speakers for them to be motivated to be able to go about doing what they want to do is because they have lost their connectivity through intuition to their higher intelligence. But when you have your connection through your intuition to the higher intelligences that are within you, that are able to connect to the micro intelligences. You have the micro intelligence which is within you, and you have the macro intelligence. So if the micro intelligence within you has its connectivity through the intuition to the macro intelligence, you don't need a motivational speaker. You don't need motivation. What is motivation? Motivation is something you can do. It's within you, but you lack the ability to be able to do. So somebody must say something to ginger you up. That simply means motivation. But what actually you need is not motivation. What actually you need is inspiration. And inspiration comes from within, but motivation comes from without. So motivation is external and inspiration is internal. That's why we call it inspiration, something that is coming from within yourself. And that inspiration is gotten out of your intuitive connection from your micro self to the macro source. Because you are a microcosm within a macrocosm. A smaller God within a bigger God. A smaller intelligence within a greater intelligence. And that smaller intelligence must always tap to the greater intelligence. You are a limited intelligence within limitless intelligence. And that limited intelligence within, you become a limited intelligence because of the physical container that you are in, we call the body. Because of your connection with mortality, you become a limited. That aspect of you brings you some level of limitation. And that is why you cannot say you know everything about the future. And you cannot say you know everything about the past. Because you are within the container of limitation. Yet, when you're able to develop your intuition, you can connect that limited self, which is the micro self, to the limitless self, which is the macro. The smaller God and then the bigger God. That's why in the book, in the Bible, I think in Galatians or something, it says that for the power of God will be at work according to the power which is at work in you. So there has to be an activation in you, and that activation in you would connect to the bigger activation outside through the intuition. Then life begins to move in a balance. So one of the benefits you have from connecting or developing your intuition and connecting to the higher intelligence through your intuition is inspiration.